Welcome back, everyone.
Good
Sabaidi,
afternoon.
Dr.Bounma.
Sabaidi. Can I speak loud?
Yes, very loud and clear.
They have someone to translate for me?
Translate from Lao, Pasar Lao to English or English to Pasar Lao.
So my English is not bad. I try to speak it as slowly and clearly.
Okay, khop chai.
ขอบใจหลาย It is very excited for me.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
Annie? Annie? ไม่ได้ยินเหรอ Annie? Can you hear me, Annie?
Dr.Anni? Dr.Anni?
Annie, can you hear me?
Yes, sorry.
Sorry. Annie, the session, just to counter check, the session is Dr. Bounma, Dr. Alexandra, and Miss Nonie Kaban, right?
Yes.
Okay, good. So welcome back, everyone. We are pleased to continue the session, the third panel session. We had to enter in 15 minutes into our second panel discussion because it was so interesting, and we think this one will be as well. So I will, without delay, I will hand over the Zoom platform to Dr.Anni Mitin to take it forward. Thank you.
Can I share my screen? Somebody else is sharing screen now. Is that?
Please share the screen. I have not.
Okay, sorry. Okay. So this will be our lineup of speakers for this session. Let's see. Okay, so for this third panel session, we will have Dr. Bounma Phengphachanh from the Lao Women Union, and we will have Dr. Alexandra Mandelbaum, the country director of Cambodia from SNV Netherlands Development Organization, and Ms. Nonie Kaban, the head of program Rikolto Indonesia Regional Office. This session, we will look at women as the drivers of sustainable diets and agrobiodiversity. In this session, we would like to highlight specifically the role of women in advancing nutrition and well-being of their family through preservation of agrobiodiversity for food security, enabling the access to affordable, nutritious, and safe food. So with this very short introduction, I would like to call our first speaker. The same thing applied, that we will look at presentation for 10 to 15 minutes. And then I will introduce the speakers before their presentation, and then we'll collect all your questions and comment and address them at the end of the, after all the presentation. I hope that will be okay as earlier. So may I would like to call for our first speaker, and Dr. Bounma. Okay, Dr. Bounma. Is this correct, Dr. Bounma? Yeah?
Yes.
Okay.
It's correct.
So Dr. Bounma is the Deputy Director for Research at Rice Research Center of NAFRI. And she is representing this is from Lao Women Union. This is the largest organization in Lao PDR representing women Lao in the Lao Women Union. Majority of Lao women unions are member of this organization, and they are based in rural community. So, and we would like to hear more of the initiative of Lao Women Union, especially looking at looking at the roots of malnutrition, how to tackle and really look at the dietary needs and nutrition that is focusing on indigenous people. So with that, Dr. Bounma, may I pass the screen to you? Go ahead, thank you.
Please share the screen. So, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Bounma Phengphachanh on behalf of Women Union of National Agriculture and Forestry Research Institute. Please share the screen for me. My PowerPoint is on your hand.
Hold on, Dr. Bounma.
Yeah, please share for me. In this time, I would like to share information about our role, about our structure. I will share 6 parts. First part, we will share about the Lao Women Union. Second part is the structure of the union. And the third is the role and the mandate of Lao. And the fifth part, women in agrobiodiversity. And the last part is future plan. My screen is not yet. Should I share or something?
Yes, Dr. Bounma, can you share the screen? Sorry.
But how to do? I can.
Please continue, Dr. Bounma. I will bring it up.
Yeah.
Okay. For the first part, I will say about the Lao Women Unions. Lao Women Unions is a mass and social organization of women. It was officially established in 1955. The history of Lao Women Union was closely attached to the country history for national liberation and development. The union is operated throughout the country at 4 levels, namely central, provincial or ministerial, district or multiple, and the last part is the village. And the union have a total member more than 1.4 million women. And for our organization, for Ministry of Agriculture, we are the second level from the Lao Women Union. And our system is throughout the different level, like we have department, we have institutes, we have agriculture college, and each organization we have we involve women organization in that. For Ministry of Agriculture, we have member of women is more than 700 women. For the structure of, I will show the structure of Lao Women Union. From the union, then they operate in 2 sides. The first side is directly to the provincial and to the district and to the village. And another side is directly to the different ministry. And in the ministry, we have different, we have 18 different ministries. And in each ministry, we have a women organization. For the Ministry of Agriculture, we have the Women Union under the high level, like under Ministry Women Organization. Then in the ministry, we have 16 different departments, and we have organization in this, and then our organization NAFRI is under the Ministry of Agriculture. Under NAFRI, we have 15 center, different center. So for the role and the mandate of the Lao women is I can. So that's 4 points. The first is mobilized and unique Lao women to activity involved in the national protection and development process, protect the rights and interests of the Lao multiple ethnic women and children. Promote the second is promote the implementation of the policy on gender equality and the advancement of women in the implementation of national socio-economic development. Third, educate women of all ethnic groups and social strata to have a proper understanding of the government policy, constitution, law, and various international instruments concerning the regional rights and interests of women adhere to be the Lao PDR. And the last, make confine traditional of the people and the Lao women of an ethnic group in particular. Women in agricultural and food security, gender dynamic and women roles in village life and leadership differ significantly across ethnic groups. Women's role in agriculture is significantly. They are involved in all steps of agricultural field, since the seed preparation, transplanting, crop care, harvesting, processing, as well as storage. Women are active participants in Lao labor force. Women work longer hours than men, as they spend 7 hours per day on productive and reproductive tasks, compared to 5.7 hours spent by men. Women increasingly run their own business, but this tends to be smaller than owned by men. Women are difficulty finding to access to the financial and technical skill. The disadvantage shifting from subsistence-based to market-oriented household economy can be particularly difficult for women in non-Lao Thai ethnic group who cultural roles limit for Lao language, limit for technical skill, often leave them underprepared to engage with the market, face a heavier burden of work in ethnic minority group, and cultural perception that favor men for the position power and keep women from emerge as leader and decision maker in ethnic group community. Women in the rural women have many roles and responsibility in supporting household work and agricultural production. They also play a significantly in improving their livelihood and well-being of their community. The gender gap between women and men make it difficult for women in rural areas to fulfill their potential. They must look after their children, prepare meals, manage household chores, pray and harvesting crop, and tend livestock. Despite these multiple challenges, they are further affected by resource inequality, reduced access to service, lack of education, and inequality rise. Next. This picture will show the participatory of women in agriculture activity. In rural area, women involved in agriculture are almost unsafe. They spend much time than men. The activity of women seem to be light, but the job is not given up. In rice field, in rice conservation and breeder. Next slide. That's the two picture above. So that's the women participatory for rice conservation and surveying. While the below picture is so that's the participatory to the rice breeder. So next, enhancing food security through sustainable management plan for non-food forest production. Non-food forest production play an important role for Lao people daily livelihood, especially in rural area. They are used for foods, medicine, provide a source of income, and have many offer of use. Estimate to make up over 40% of total rural income in Laos, and they play a central role in maintaining food security. In upland and arid area, rural people have limited to access the paddy field or fertile land, and they can directly depend on non-wood forestry products such as various of fiber are considered for safety nets, acting as buffer during seasonal and emerging food shortage. To make family income, men and women collect wild plant and non-wooden forest products and bring it to the market and sell it and to make the income for their family. This picture will show the women oriented in the market and show the wild plant in the lower picture, and another and two above picture is also the diverse of non-forest product is will sell in the market, in local market in Siêng Khoang province. Next, to increase the quantity and quality of agricultural product is a key to improve the nutrition and livelihood of villagers across Laos. However, it is equally important to do so in many ways to preserve natural resources for use in the future. To ensure the food security and improving livelihood, that should be instruct the villager in the following areas, such as to raise a small farming for livestock, to make organic farming technique, mushroom culture, integrated pest management, processing and marketing agroforestry products. Next, women to do home activity, they plant diverse of vegetable, and they bring some of this to the market to make an income and to buy some another food for their family. So next, another way in the household, they small farming for poultry, and some of this bring to the market, and some of this to make as food. That is so that's a Pak Khao Lao. There's have diverse of food here that's made from a local product that is different kind of Lao food here. So in the Park Khao Lao. Next, for here we saw the women in agrobiodiversity. As mentioned before, agrobiodiversity in Laos is considered as crucial resources for food security, sustainable livelihood, and agricultural nutrition. This resource have benefit to the country for centuries. Better use, improve development, and enhance conservation of agricultural biodiversity are required to meet both currently and in the future for both demand and future food, to decrease chronic malnutrition and reduce rural poverty. And the picture shows that when diverse of agrobiodiversity, then we have diverse of food in the leaf regulator. Who maintain agricultural biodiversity? In next slide, farmer who is maintain agricultural biodiversity, and most of the farmer who are working in the field are women farmer. Agricultural biodiversity, including plant, animal, microbial, and fungal genetic resources. If low agrobiodiversity make agriculture more vulnerable to pests, disease, and climate change. When we lost agricultural biodiversity, we also lost the option to make our diet healthier and our food system more resilient and sustainable. To conservation and sustainable use of agriculture biodiversity, next slide, please. The community seed bank is very important for local area. This picture shows the participatory of villager to survey and conservation of rice seed of the seed, community seed, as called as a community seed bank. That's what done in. If we have more genetic diversity, make our food more diverse, as shown in the picture. And if we have diverse of the diet, then we are healthy and happy life. So, and we have future plan. The next slide, please. So for our future plan and for the Lao Women Union, they have a program and contain small 34 project, acting project. But for this, under agricultural sector, we apply it, then we have just only 16 projects that is which is suitable for our sector. Then the program, first program is the Human Development Resources. They contain 2 projects. And second one is strengthening women union at all level, including 5 projects. And another one is enhancing the heritage characteristic of linkage to the nation culture. Next, protect the repeat right and interest women and children. The 6th one is to promote women employment and business adventure. The 6th one is promote the advancement of women and gender rights. The 7th, the empower women in protecting natural resources and the environmental. And the last one is cooperation with foreign country. In this plan, we focus for 8 program. That's the first is we focus in our agricultural sector. We like vocational training for disadvantaged women that we focus in nearly 3 years. And the second one is training on women development work. And the third, raise awareness of small business, middle business, and saving group at the village level. The fourth one is encourage the introduction of community products and create added value. The fifth one is promote adopt of women product at the village level. Six, promote an exhibition and sale of women handicraft. Enhance the international cooperation for women development work. And the last is the monitoring and evaluate of comprehensive activity of women. So this is on for me today. So thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Bounma. Thank you so much for sharing with us the work of Lao Farmer Union, and very interesting to see how we would like how subsistence-based farming system or community system to be transformed towards market-oriented economies. This is something that we could look deeper into. What is the impact as far as providing nutrition, safe food and nutrition to at the household level. And again, you are sharing a lot the same theme about community seed side, that there's community seed banks coming in again. And I also believe that this is very important to enable to provide diverse sources of nutrition. I think this is very critical. Thank you for highlighting that, and also looking at the impact of quantity versus quality when it comes to food. This is again a lot of issues coming. Do we produce a lot? Do we? How do we keep the quantity, the quality at the same level? So thank you for sharing that with us. I would like to later we'll come back for more discussion on this. I would like to now invite our second speaker for this session, Dr. Alexandra Mandelbaum. Thank you for being here with us. She is the Country Director, Cambodia, from under SNV Netherlands Development Organization. She is considered a leader in market-driven poverty alleviation efforts. Her experience include guiding social impact organization from strategy to action. As the country director of SNV, she oversees and implement projects in agriculture, energy, water, sanitation, hygiene, the WASH program. And she also, with CNV, using market-based approaches. And again, here we look at market-based approaches and looking at the role and how this would affect the women and marginalized community. It's interesting to hear how the program on clean and improvement cooking in the Mekong region, which they have been working on, is designed to address the negative social, economic, environmental health impact of traditional cooking in rural Cambodia. Because now we really want to dive in, and Dr. Alexandra, I think you will give more in-depth insight into food and nutrition in local community. Please, the screen is yours. Thank you. Can hear you. Unmute, please.
I am unmuted. Can you hear me?
Yes, now okay.
Okay, so headphones for another day. Greetings to everybody, and thank you so much for the warm welcome. I will start with my presentation, and hopefully there isn't a question. No, it's a question for Dr.Bounma. So let me share my screen. Here we go. And then if I go like this, can everybody see my screen?
Yes.
Are we?
All
Are we?
good. Yeah.
Okay, we are not separated by technology, so already that is wonderful.
Connected, yes.
Excellent. So thank you for the kind introduction. You never know what you will hear about yourself. So I want to present. I'm going to focus on one program that we have done in Cambodia, and then it is not our clean cooking program. But I will then actually at the end talk about how our work integrates across programs, which will hopefully answer some of the questions that Annie has raised. But thank you for inviting me to speak on this topic. So the program that I wanted to share with you today is a program that we call CHAIN, but that stands for Cambodia Horticulture for Improved Income and Nutrition. And this sits very much at the heart of this question that we're talking about today. You know, how do we think about markets? And we just heard really interesting examples from Lao, but also kind of an increasing commercial outlook, while also making sure that nutritional outcomes are taking place as well. And it is not just all about the money. But I am still going to very, very much talk about a market-driven approach. Let's see. My little screen. Okay. So the CHAIN project is an 8-year program, and that's important. Market changes and market facilitation takes time. It really is hard to be transformational quickly. And so we have had the privilege of working on this project over 8 years. Can everybody still hear me?
Yes, yes.
Wonderful. While we are the lead agency, we in fact are working very, very closely with the General Directorate of Agriculture, which was added in phase 3, and overall we work with the Ministry of Agriculture across all phases, and really closely with provincial partners. So local NGOs, the Department of Women Affairs, the Department of Agriculture, and other technical partners. In our current phase, it's Swiss Contact and Meta, which is a Swiss Contact may be well known, but Meta is a water management consultancy. In previous phases, we've also worked with ABRDC and other different kinds of technical partners. And we work in the northern provinces of Cambodia, right on the border. These, I should mention, and I know that there are Cambodian colleagues on this call, so I would hate to presume with my knowledge, even after a few years in Cambodia. But these, certainly 8 years ago when we started, were not very wealthy provinces in Cambodia, and they did not have a history of horticultural production. So how do we think about market systems development and market systems transformation? So this should look relatively familiar to many people. This is sometimes called the donut or the hamburger, food metaphors. So if we put the value chain in the center, from production to trade, to processing, to wholesale, to retail, to having it reach the consumers, we then also have to think about the supporting function, so input provision, skills development, etc., and also the underlying tools. And so when we think about market systems facilitation, we're very much working in all of these areas. This is a different way of showing it, but this is helpful in terms of showing some of the areas that we target then as a result when we're thinking about critical weaknesses. So is there in fact enough quality supply? So early on we identified weak or low quality input supply as a key constraint. There was limited extension, there was high costs, There were a lot of imported vegetables coming in that are deemed unsafe in terms of phytosanitary standards and their use of pesticides. In terms of at farmer level, we were seeing a lot of child stunting and how, there was home consumption, which we identified at baseline level. Was it diverse enough? And a number of other issues related to the rules and enabling environment, including no safety testing. And so again, what do you do, right? As you're thinking about market transformation, but you want the market transformation to benefit many and not just one, you want to make sure that kind of the home aspects are benefiting the maximum number of people. We sometimes think about this as leading towards systemic change. So you want to have some first movers, but the critical importance is to build up a critical mass. So that the market changes and the associated behavior changes are institutionalized. That's critically important. And so when we think about our own work on chain, we see it as a progression. Early on, we used very much what we would call a push methodology. So we were doing a lot of trialing and testing in collaboration with local NGOs around what worked in the area. We tried a lot of things, and that is as much about the crops that were growing as what consumers wanted, what inputs we could find, what seeds were, what made sense for the soil. There was a lot of pushing and doing business-to-business engagement. Chain 2 is really where it kind of came together in what we call a push-pull methodology. So now we want to start making sure that the market forces are being heard as well. So it's not just about what we're pushing, but what are people asking for? And so this is where, from a communications point of view, you want to have build up the awareness of we should be asking for fresh vegetables. We should be focusing on those that are planted by Kamai. We should have pride in our local production, because those kinds of market signals are critically important as well. And now we're in a phase of thinking about sustainability and scaling. So how can we build up a larger critical mass of homestead farmers that are now semi-commercial, and how do they engage semi-commercial farmers that are moving to a commercial state, ensuring that those support functions that have been developed around SMEs, around input provision, around extension, around market linkages to different buyers are all in fact growing and being sustained, because what you want to see is that institutionalization of the market growth and how that systems change. And when we think about this and how does it tie into our topic today is, of course, right, with increased availability, we also have increased affordability, and that leads to that increased accessibility that we're driving towards in the agricultural biodiversity space. So I'm not going to take you, with 10 minutes, I could, again, and almost 8 years of work, I could go very deep. But so what are some of the different tools that we use? And it's very important to be quite agile in developing this. So under this chain umbrella, we've had a lead farmer program, which is frequently assumed to just be a way of getting extension at the local level. It's much more than that. This is about community development. It's about community peer-to-peer learning opportunities. It's about aggregation, which is critically important. Some of these lead farmers, yes, have become kind of a form of extension support beyond the PDAP staff, but they do so much more than that. They are the early adopters that are showing their neighbors, hey, this is some of what can happen. And they are also frequently the ones that are trialing some of the most interesting innovations that we're seeing in the market. We've also seen the importance of smart water solutions. So nutritional diversity and also sustained income are both very much tied to, do you have water? No water, no planting. No planting, no money. No money, you can't eat what you're growing unless you have, you'll still probably have something for household consumption, but it's really very, very small. So a big initiative taking place around mapping what the available water is, how you can do better water harvesting, better water management. Some of these are individual, but a lot of these are also community solutions. We don't exist alone, but is there a reservoir together that a group of farmers? And that can only be built through that spirit of cohesion that was built up earlier in the market interventions. Here we go. We'll have all the reasons why year-round production is critical. Because otherwise you don't sustain what you've learned and what you're doing. And of course, then the prices of vegetables go up, imports increase. There is both a market opportunity, but then a hindrance to nutritional achievements. Market stalls. So again, how, and this is His Excellency visiting on a recent field visit. But how do we also get these to market? How do we talk about safer consumption? So stalls that are not just on the floor, but also, again, showcasing this idea of taking pride in what you're producing, in it being local. And you can talk to consumers saying, I come to this stall because I know it's locally grown and I have an interest in that. And those around are starting to, in fact, not put things only on the floor. And there's a very, very strong link between wash and overall kind of nutritional and household impacts. We do a lot of support at small and medium enterprise level. And so this is one of our input suppliers. And again, it's all women. It's all women that are driving this sector's growth and this sector's impact. They're truly amazing. And these are, again, opportunities for peer-to-peer learning. So this is one particularly amazing input supplier who's doing community outreach through YouTube. She's got some videos that she posts that are really interesting. And a business incubator program as well. You know, how can you advance? How can you access financing? And then, of course, critically important to work with provincial departments on what is their strategy. So any development implementer worth their salt is working on exiting. So we are not expecting to be permanent market actors ourselves the way the government is. So what is the long-term provincial strategy? And so helping them understand, look, this is the constituency, this is the potential, this is who is interested in services going forward. How do we help you kind of take that long-term vision and plan for it? We've worked with the government hand in hand on marketing campaigns that, again, highlight the importance of Planted by Kamai. This is now sort of a national brand that has started to be built up around local and safe vegetables. And then, of course, along the way, we've done quite a bit of work around nutrition, behavior change, communication. So this gets integrated at every step, because what we don't want, you hear all these stories of, you know, we're planting more, but it's all for sale. It's all for the income. We're not eating it ourselves. So at every step of the way, you want to talk about the super mom. Who is the super mom? She gives 2 fists of vegetables to her child every day. And this is delivered in partnership with the Commune Council of Women's Affairs. So it's really about that community messaging coming across, and also that peer-to-peer learning again. Key results, it's gone pretty well. We have one more year, but there's been a huge increase in some of the labor-saving technologies for year-round production, in the development of what we see as genuine gender-responsive services. So again, this is what we are somewhere between hopeful and confident that this will continue, that real transformation is taking place. COVID has been very challenging, of course. And we've seen some regression, so we want to see how we can make sure that those gains come back now that that area is reopening. But there is so much more local produce for local markets. There is so much more awareness about local production, so much more nutrition awareness overall. And And so we're pretty excited about that. I mentioned that I would link this to our cook stoves work. Maybe just, I can stop presenting, but still share a little bit. Not entirely sure. That we link to this, where we have a smoke-free village campaign. So this is much more at community level, where the focus is on 4 behaviors. So we don't just want to talk about access to clean cooking. We talk about a range of behaviors: keeping children away, reducing smoke inhalation, kind of having it in a separate place, and cleanliness, and then essentially either clean or improved cooking devices. And we attach this to a lot of our other work. So we really see great potential for integrated programming between agriculture, energy, and in many, many cases also our WASH programming. Because again, you want to have clean environment, you want to have sanitation and hygiene that increases kind of the nutritional value of what you're eating. You want to not have smoke inhalation because that reduces the health effects. And so the more integrated programming we can see going forward, we feel that there is the potential for those long-term outcomes at health, at income, and at the nutritional level. And I think I'll leave you with that.
Okay, thank you, Alexandra. Thank you so much for that presentation that you shared with us on Chain's program. Yeah, this is, and also a little bit on clean cooking. Yeah, this is 2 areas I think very unique that SNB have worked on. And again, it would be nice, would be interesting to see how market-driven approach to transform the food system will affect the local communities, especially the indigenous people, and the role of indigenous women in this market-driven transformation approach. Yes, thank you so much for that. And we hear again, you presented the push and pull factors that are related to this, the market stalls, that they use a raised platform instead of putting on the floor. I think this is something that we can also highlight. And the supermom program, I think this is very important because we have from Vietnam. I think we heard in the last another platform earlier that I heard, even though the consumers have increase of outcome, doesn't mean that they will spend their money on nutritious food. So this is, I think that's something that we have to look at. Thank you, Alexandra, for that. I would like to now call our last speaker for this session and also for today. So later we will come back to all the Q&A. And more questions, please, on the Q&A board so that we can share. So thank you, Alexandra. And now I would like to call Ms. Nonie Kaban, the head of program Rikolto Indonesia Regional Office. So Nonie has, yeah. Yes? Can you hear me?
Yeah, she was online, but now she's not online anymore.
Uh-oh, okay. So she's not there? Okay. So while waiting, we'll try. So then we can answer some of the questions first. Yeah?
Yes, please, Annie. Yeah.
So, okay, so I think the first one that I see here is from Suwit. This is to Dr.Bounma. Interesting question. Yeah, I think this is related to the new high-speed train that is being planned in Laos. Yeah, so how would this affect the Lao indigenous community? How do you potentially see, especially the women, would they be able to leverage, or would their capacity to provide nutritious food will be impacted by this project? Could you share, Dr. Bounma, your opinion on this?
So this is a new trend in our country. In my person is not general. I think that's when we open by about the trend, then it gives us opportunity to make high income for us. Like we open the country, then many tourism come to our country. Then I think that's the tourism view to visit our traditional customer, which in ethnic group they rich in diversity of a customer and a diversity of activity and diversity of crop. Maybe it will be make it income for them, and it will be change their livelihood, maybe bet good income for them. This is my personal answer.
Okay, so maybe Alexandra also can can also share, because in many from what I personally have seen, because when tourists come and also there's a external forces that come in, it will change the landscape of the community. Their dietary will change. So how would the influence that the tourists will bring, introducing a different type of food, how would that affect the nutrition base or the diet base of local community, especially the indigenous people? Maybe Alexandra can also share, because looking at this market driven side.
I'm not sure my answer. I think my answer might talk about the impact of opening up, but not as much on its specific impact on indigenous communities. I think what we can say is, on the one hand, of course, opening up, new people coming in, new economic opportunities, interesting, powerful. So Cambodia and that part of the country that I showed, is very impacted by its proximity to Siem Reap. So it's a huge market. It's an important market, certainly for agricultural products and for agricultural products targeting foreigners. At the same time, I think unfortunately COVID has shown us the weakness of that dependence, because when the tourists go away, the market goes away pretty dramatically also. So what we, maybe it's not so much what we see, but what I was struck by during a recent field visit in talking to some of the farmers, they were telling me the importance of diversified markets. It wasn't me asking them pointed questions. They were explaining to me, they're like, you have to have a diversified market. You have to sell some locally. You have to find a trader to whom you sell your quality products, and that can go to Phnom Penh or to Siem Reap. I want to have something for household consumption because I don't want to find myself. And so they were understanding very much from lived experience the importance of different grades of crops, of different market channels, and of diversifying their risk, which I thought was really, really powerful, and very much coming from the recent lived experience of all of us.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. There's a question from Rosalu regarding local good practices. So what can be done to facilitate scaling up and mainstream good practices, especially to support facilitators for transformation? And this, I think it is very, very interesting. For example, like you have the SNB have this peer-to-peer program, farmer-led initiative. Yeah, and this is very important, that actually the voices and the choices that the farmers are making themselves are being scaled up. So could you further share on how can we facilitate this kind of initiative to make it into policy side? Yeah.
I think the question that was asked is tremendously important. We had a whole question about whether super mom should be coupled with a super dad or super parents, because it is tremendously important. We don't want to increase women's burdens. We don't, in fact, want to make it seem like it's only that driver. But in the end, through co-creation, I'll be honest, what we found was they really wanted to be super moms because they knew they were super moms already. So part of it was a celebration as well. More generally, in most of our interventions, we very much take a household-led approach. We want to make sure that we're facilitating joint household decision-making, joint household financial planning that reduces conflict as well about where you're going to put your spend, and that we're talking about children as kind of a shared joy as well, and a shared responsibility. That's very much part of the messaging that you put in there in that behavioral change, and that also is true. Again, I didn't present, but that's also true of our smoke-free village work, right? Because again, you want to be a smoke-free household. You're not a smoke-free woman. We encourage families to come together because that clean and improved cooking spend, that's a big financial decision. You should be making it together. And then that peer-to-peer learning, and that's about, again, that's village, that's commune, coming together and saying, we're together making this choice. So you do want to come back again to, as rarely as possible, put the burden on women. You want to see them as leaders of change.
So would this, so to the policy side, when you work with the provincial government, how acceptable is this kind of model, when it comes to integrating into the national or regional policy? So would they provide help to facilitate more, to scale up this effort?
So I use the word we, but I want to be very, very clear. It is not SNV staff. This is all happening through the provincial government. So where we spend most of our time is on working with provincial government on that co-creation, on that messaging, on that capacity building, but they are the delivery actors. And so I think that we do benefit from long relationships that I think we all know in our work that helps, but they're hugely supportive. We'll have provincial governors who will say, we need, this is exactly what our Commune Council of Women has been looking for. This is exactly what our PDAF staff has been looking for. How do we work with you on this messaging? But again, those long-term strategies really help. I think it's really hard to do that with the short interventions that sometimes we see in our development space, and that I think are really challenging.
Okay, thank you. Dr.Bounma, I think this one will be for you. Do you consider that there is some affection in wildlife consumption? This you mentioned about non-wood forest product, and so especially in northern Laos, with a big amount of tourism from China, would that affect the use of this agrobiodiversity product as traditional medicine? Okay, let me read this question again. Do you consider that there is some affection in wildlife consumption, especially in Laos, with the big amount of tourism from China that often use? Oh, okay. So this is something to do with the use of wild tiger, or so this animal product that is being in some countries, they consider this as there's a lot of medicinal value in for example, the bear heart or the, so this kind of belief, how do you see this kind of consumption in northern Laos? Yeah.
My opinion is for wildlife, we have protection law for wildlife. Then we not allow people to, how to say that, to keep wildlife for food and for sale in the market. But we find some, but small amount, like a small bird, something that we can find in the local market. But anyway, we not allow they to, how to say, to keep them from the forest. We do not allow.
Okay, so there is really the legislation is already strong in looking at endangered species and wildlife species. So there is protection that is going on. So hopefully the demand from tourists from other countries to look at all this can also be controlled. With the willpower of the people. The local people must, I guess, must be the monitors or the police to see whether this kind of demand is appearing in their community. Thank you, Dr. Bounma. Another interesting question from Aliana, okay, because we look at try to give option for women. I think this is again related to the role of women in household. Try to give option to women to get out of the schematic models that women are only doing work like maternity or cooking on projects. Perhaps some women do not want to fit in this profile. So so how do we see the impact, like with this transformation, the market-driven transformation? We are transforming women from their role in the household, the farming. We are putting them into as an entrepreneur, as a trader. So would we see this as something that these women should play, or and would this kind of role make their role as a woman at home disappear? Then they, because we know now modern women, they like in urban area, we have housemaid now. We have maid taking care of our kids. We have maid who cook for our children. So I'm not sure how this transformation will affect the role of women in the household. So let me hear from Dr. Bounma first, and then Alexandra.
For women roles, household roles, in urban women, they share the activity between men, husband and wife, do the, how to say, cooking for them family. Maybe the man cooking, the woman washing the dish, something like that. But in rural area, for any woman, there's a woman should be cooking for the family. That's just how to say that, because the limit of the role of this minority, then the woman should be keeping household and cooking for their family. But in urban women, it's different. We share the activity together. So,
okay. Alexandra, would you like to add to that? Thank you.
I answered part of it before, but I will say we find that if you press on this, you get some very interesting answers. So first of all, certainly in rural environments, we do find that women are doing a huge amount of business. Our concern, the trading, the planting, the business of agriculture. Our concern is actually always, will it be taken away from them as it becomes more commercial? And when we press on this, we get a variety of different answers. They may tell us, well, I'm not as comfortable with negotiating in bigger sales, but we always decide before my husband does it. So we do still see a lot of variations to our understanding of where the voice is, but it's not quiet and it's definitely not limited. It just evolves as that market evolves. Additionally, we always ask things like, do you have a bank account? Who controls it? Do you both sign? As they become more commercialized. And in the majority of the instances, and I'll be honest, I don't know if it's because we've encouraged it through our work or it's happened organically, I don't know. But when the bank account happens, they both have it, they're both signatories. Again, we see a real reflection of a shared ownership of that business as it grows. Hopefully that answers Alina's question.
Yeah. Again, this ownership, Dr.Bounma also mentioned ownership of property, of land, yeah. So it could, so in Laos, under the Laos Women's Union, for example, is this co-ownership of businesses also apparent, especially when you drive the, the household income based towards, market driven. Yeah. So how would you address this co-ownership of businesses when they take part in this market? Say, for example, and now that they go, if ecotourism or tourism is promoted, yeah. So they take part in homestay program and things like that. Yeah. So would this also give women the women, that local women, to have a say, more say in what happened in that kind of business? You are unmute. Please unmute yourself.
Can you explain me more about your question? I just sorry.
Yeah, so in business, yeah, because we are pushing for market-driven transformation in the food system. So when we push for this, the household income is also now is influenced by off farm. Yeah, it's not. It will be depending on the market. Yeah, so this business. Will the women also have this in terms of business co-ownership?
I am not sure that means for the ownership of the business or the income of household. So for the household, that if man or woman is involved in the business, but the income should be bring to the home, to the house, and who is the suggestion for pay for buy something, that's a decision by men. In other decision by women, who is it's like to be man is the head of the ownership, but the management is a woman. The housewife is the organizer of the money. That's a husband bring to home.
Okay, so the finance minister of the home is the women.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. And they decide on what to buy and how to spend the money. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So in that way, they still have the power to decide what they should feed to the family, what the children should eat. Right.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Okay. Let me see any other comment here. Okay, another one from Iliana. Okay, generally by experience in terms of education, the family chose the boy to go to the city from the rural area. So the migration happened here and the boy go out because there is a conception that will bring this will bring more money back home. Do you see that this type of scenario will affect the participation of women in projects in terms of self-confidence? Do you see this? Because in terms of education, The boy will go to the rural area, you know, and they allow them to go because they know that this boy will bring back the money to the family. So for the women who are left behind, or the girls, yeah, will this affect their role, their participation in women project? Do they feel confident? Well, you know, because they probably think that why does the boy have to can go out and I stay in the village? Would this create disharmony in that way, in the thinking? Do you see this as affecting and you know, then probably the girls also want to move to the city and they don't want to stay in the village? So did you see the disruption in the society in terms of this?
For me, in our country, it still have in a minority group. There's women, most of women not get high education, and while the men can get higher education and they enter to the city and get a better job, but while the man, the woman is still home and maybe get married and take care their children, their family. It's a debate for ethnic women, but in urban, men or women, we can enter in higher education and become leadership in some organization and some business like a man. Yeah, but so in the urban, it's a equality between men and women.
Okay. Do you see this scenario, Alexandra, in terms of education, differences between men and women in these communities?
It's not something that we've spent enough time looking at that I would be comfortable necessarily presenting our response. I think we know globally that, you know, as incomes rise, there is a global an unfortunate tendency to start with educating boys before you educate girls. I'd be stunned if Cambodia is somehow different than. I can also say that when we ask people we work with, the younger generation is not necessarily as interested in on-farm labor. For a lot of the farmers that we work with, if they're a little bit older and have children, they'll have some family, both male and female, staying in the farm, but there's usually one or two people who have gone to a more urban environment, either to a garment factory or to, in the case where we work, to Thailand to do labor because they think it earns them more income. But they also come back, right? So we've met people who've gone to Thailand to work, saved, and then came back to start their activities. So yeah, I can't exactly answer the question the way it's been phrased.
Okay. Ratna, do we have Miss Nonie?
No, apparently she had internet connection problem being quarantined after her travel. So yeah, so we don't have Nonie this time. I would like to apologize to the participants on her behalf and also on behalf of the organizer.
It's okay. So we can still discuss a bit more.
But I think Alexandra, you mentioned that you or something. Yeah. So yes, Annie, there is a question from Miss Rosalut, I think.
Yeah. I mentioned that the original slot was from 1 to 2:30, and so I do have to wrap up. I'm happy to answer any additional questions, but I can't stay much longer because I'm only here for this one session.
Okay. So is there any other question for Alexandra from the participants that she can address before she goes? Let me see. Yeah, because, okay, just because this is tying up again, looking at income, yeah, prospect for income increase in income that is related to providing safe and nutritious food for the community. So how can we ensure that this will happen? Again, maybe here a bit of indicators that what you use, yeah, to map income and nutrition at home. If you could highlight on this a bit, is how do you study this? How do you say that income equals nutrition?
I don't think we can say that without the research that goes behind it. So it's not a blanket statement, just to be clear. We've done household diaries where people will keep food diaries, where people will keep sort of spending diaries in general. And we've come back over the years to specific households. It is all self-reported. And we know from a data point of view that any self-reported data should be questioned a little bit. People want to show that they have adopted the behaviors that they that you want them to. So, but on the other hand, we've done also, just some very, very basic metrics for children, arm length and things like that. We're not a specialized nutrition organization. But you can see the markers. Again, there's enough data to say they're not just using it to buy, shall we say, more beef into their diet, that their own household consumption is increasing. And what we also see a lot is the enthusiasm with which the government has grabbed onto that message. And I think, that they use that some national campaigns, for example, around the Planted by Kamai, they want to make sure that it's being seen in schools. So you're starting to see that awareness filter into some of the provincial strategies. So then it's being driven as an overall message, right? It's going to the school, it's going to the pagoda, it's going to the commune council, it's going to the development partner, and that is that kind of behavior change messaging you want to see. And again, we're seeing it in the results of what we track in terms of these household diets. But I would never say that it's a blanket statement of incomes go up, nutrition goes up. That would be too much.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Alexandra. Okay. Dr.Bounma, would you like to add more into this income and nutrition? How do we link this income and nutrition provision?
I think there's if community have high income, then we can use this for buy something for eating, and for buy they can have more option to select the better food for them, for feeding their children, and by the way they can buy something but they think that's for the heart, it's happy, something like that. And when they have more income, they can happy, and if they happy, this would be healthier. I think that's more income, more healthy, and yeah. So
okay. Okay, a final question that I think we would address here. This is from Ikra. So here's a quick question. What is the best way to show result of baseline survey focusing on livelihoods and gender? This is in general, but if you would like to give your input or insight into this, probably will be also help to address his question. What is the best way to show result of baseline survey focusing on livelihoods and gender? Any insight into this? Yeah,
it's a very big question. And so I guess I would say, ideally, to think about a few benchmark indicators. Obviously, the gold standard is if you can do a randomized control trial, but that's expensive and complicated. But I would pick a small number of indicators that you're trying to trace backwards and then use a longitudinal study. But, you know, my arms don't fit. Gender is huge.
Yeah.
Nutrition is huge. Pick a few things that you really want to use as your leading indicators of transformation.
Yeah.
Focus on that.
Yeah, agree. Yeah. Dr. Bounma, would you like to
So,
add to that? Yeah.
I think that's in my sector is related to the agriculture, and to make a good life. I think that's we should promote them more knowledge about agriculture and develop their labor skill, encourage the processing of agriculture and handicraft products, and reduce the hard work of women, but ensure good products because women are the half of total labor in our country. I think that's if we train them or educate them about the special activity, or it could be make their life be better than before.
Okay. All right. Okay. With that, I think I would like to wrap up our session. I think we spend we make use of a good use of our time together. Yeah, and I would like to really highlight on what we get from this session is looking at the market-driven approach, or to as a means toward ensuring safe food and nutrition. But this market-driven is not just looking at what consumers want, but also what the people, or the indigenous people, what the women, what they are capable of producing or providing to their family. Yeah, I think this is very critical. And again, the highlight on the participatory methods. This keep going into our teams throughout the day. From yesterday, participatory seed breeding, the extension services. They are involved in farmer to farmer, or lead. This has been the same. So again, making sure that it is the community who drive this forward as well. Thank you so much. And again, the emphasis on nutrition based on non-wood forest products. I think we don't want to have forgotten food from the local people, yeah, because we know there's a lot of underutilized species in our food system that we need to bring back and promote in the market as well. We have seen a lot, I think yesterday we hear only 6 different food groups or species that are being consumed today, and most are forgotten. So we just want to have that within when we transform our food system, that these underutilized species are also being promoted. With that, I really would like to thank the two of you. Thank you so much, Dr. Alexandra Mandelbaum. Thank you so much, Dr. Bounma. Thank you for.
Thank you very much.
Ratna. Thank you.
ขอบใจหลายๆ Dr. Bounma, and
Yes.
thank you, Ms. Alexandra. We will take about 20 minutes break before we start the final session. We will come back at 3 o'clock, and we will discuss the way forward for our session, and which will be chaired by the Executive Director of Mekong Institute, Kun Suriyan Vichitlekarn, and also with our lead moderator, Dr.Anni. Hopefully I can provide her the adequate support in this aspect. So we will see you at 3 p.m. Thank you, everyone. Good afternoon. Sabaidi Andy. Okay, so this session is aimed at informing us or helping Mekong Institute in consultation and in collaboration with all those present here today as attendee or panelists. If you would like us to change you to panelist mode or to talk or what, please do let us know. Our colleagues will monitor the chat box and allow you in, unmute you or allow you to talk and all that. So yeah. So what we will present here today, again, I will share with you quickly the summary of discussion and the key points, key takeaways from day one, so that it will sort of like jog our memory a bit, and also a recap of what happened today. Annie would provide the additional inputs in case I missed it, Annie, and what I will present also after the summary of day one will be what are the inputs that we will what are the inputs to the white paper that we will draft going forward from this this forum, this 2-day forum. So what we would like to hear from you is we will go slide by slide to get your confirmation that reflects our forum discussion, and the way forward or suggested entry points and all that are also in agreeable with you. And we will also, if we forget something or if there is a misrepresentation of what we have discussed, please highlight. This is a collaborative process, and also giving you the opportunity to influence the process at least at this forum, and going forward also from here, how we can influence process to mainstream agrobiodiversity in gender equality and social inclusion and sustainable food system initiatives in the ASEAN region. So with that, allow me to share the screen. So some of you are seeing this for the second time, and probably some for the first time. I would quickly go through just to recap what we have discussed yesterday. We had 2 panel sessions, a workshop and fireside talk. And the key takeaway, of course, we have to acknowledge that ASEAN is host of one of the biggest mega biological diversity areas in the 3 big countries, 3 countries here in the ASEAN region, and therefore warrants the protection and conservation to ensure sustainable, resilient, and inclusive food systems in the region. And protection of biodiversity revolves around 4 key factors. One is land and tenure rights, land, tenure, and rights, especially customary land. Scaling up of tradition and indigenous food systems, which are inherently important to conserve agrobiodiversity and food security at community level. Respect and protection of traditional knowledge, systems and practices, and market linkages to ensure that we continue to support and it continue to support the livelihoods of indigenous people and rural women. And also one of the key takeaways is for rural women and indigenous community, building a collective voice will enhance solidarity and therefore to influence policies and to protect indigenous knowledge, systems, and practices. One of the things that we have to look out for is the zero draft of the ASEAN guidelines on customary tenure recognition in forested landscapes. This provides a window for us to influence what goes into the guideline. And we also see increased threats from intensive agriculture activities, usually selecting monoculture agriculture practices for women and indigenous women, and also the threat to indigenous knowledge systems and practices, and also to recognize and subsequently support family farmers as key to food security and protection of livelihood. Another thing to watch out for, coming from the inputs from ASEAN, is the ASEAN Master Plan for Rural Development, which is actually one of the few things that are cross-cutting across the 3 pillars of ASEAN Economic Community. It targets rural and marginalized and poor territories and involve them in participatory territorial development of the land. During the workshop discussion, during the discussions from the panel session, again, it was emphasized how collective voice could build solidarity to influence processes at a national level and also at a regional level. Documentation was also stressed of indigenous knowledge. An example was given by NTFP Asia, is the ICCA, and also security of tenure and customary land to encourage or to motivate the landowners to continue to protect it for future generation, and also sustainable livelihood and food security. There is also increased need for capacity building to promote self-organization, and self-organization. It is suggested that it will build or strengthen self-determination, and therefore also to enable to take charge and leadership of their community level policies and activities in support of agrobiodiversity and social inclusion. There are a lot of, even with the discussion, during the discussion, the panelists, including from ACB, NTFP, etc., everyone agreed that there are good initiatives, but there are still gaps. Gaps in the aspect of policies, recognizing and respecting the role of women as custodians of agrobiodiversity, and also social enterprises to ensure that the commercial or the economic interests of women in rural and indigenous communities are also taken care of or addressed accordingly. One thing that we also need to emphasize is that agrobiodiversity is not only to serve the interests of food security, but it is actually a cultural identity, and it also influence. It has a bearing on the rituals and also medicine and health of indigenous people. So it's beyond food alone. So, and in this aspect, women have been the custodians of all this knowledge. And for example, in Aka people in Chiang Rai, the measure of wealth is not by dollars and cents or what degree or how many cars you have, but in the variety, how many variety of seeds you have, and these are being exchanged to actually support community, increase of community wealth in terms of access, able to propagate these seeds, and also for food security. And these knowledge are increasingly under threat because of some people see increased income and yield, and therefore favor modern agriculture techniques. And that has resulted in what we saw the sharing from Indigenous Women's Network of Thailand, that it has resulted in some social issues and concerns among the Hmong tribe, Hmong people. And AIPP also reiterated that without respect and recognition of land and collective customary land rights of women, there will be limited policy or statutory or customary solutions to address the gaps in this aspect. We had three panelists share about actual cases or case studies on agrobiodiversity, women and indigenous community. And one of the intervention came from UNDP SGP program in Malaysia, strengthening complementary and supplementary livelihood would enhance commercial needs of or economic needs of indigenous people, and also will ensure the intergenerational transfer of knowledge, skills and practices among community members and also for the next generation. This also will enhance ownership. That is why we saw a lot of restoration and rehabilitation of degraded land and areas by the indigenous people, and also conservation of natural resources, especially water. Right. For Pakao Lao, this has gathered a lot of interest among our participants because this is actually a very good practice, a good project, and has a potential scaled up to reach out to researchers and recognition, and also to recognize and respect for indigenous and rural women's knowledge system through laws and policies, because there's a wealth of information and scaling up of research potential in this through these kinds of initiatives. And such repository of knowledge will also help inform the policies, documentation, conservation, and capacity building. There are also similar initiatives documented by AIPP, FOE, Friends of the Earth publication in Malaysia. We did this sort of like areas of intervention recommendation for improvements under policy as a community capacity building need, and also data and research gaps. Again, under policy, land and tenure, collective rights, and the recognition and respect for of women's role and rights on agrobiodiversity, and therefore warranting involvement in policy formulation, at least at the community level. We saw how successful that was in Laos, being able to manage pool of fund, a village fund, which can actually help women to self-organize and improve their economic status at the community level. Knowledge for capacity building, knowledge on conservation and promotion of agrobiodiversity. Like Mr. Wanak has already pointed out, there are a lot of activities which are actually mainstreaming agrobiodiversity, but there's limited awareness that what they're doing is actually mainstreaming agrobiodiversity. So this kind of knowledge and formalizing the knowledge and guidelines would help scale up or mainstream agrobiodiversity, especially in gender equality and social inclusion initiatives for livelihoods. There is data and research needed to support the need to respect customary protocols. When we are improving data gaps and research gaps, there is a need to respect customary protocol because not all is shared. Right? Some are not shared for reasons only known to the community. And also documentation and records on the role of women needs to be scaled up so that there are adequate research or data to support policies, and also to inform policies what specific activities are needed or interventions are needed to accord women the rightful support to continue or to sustain their role as custodians of agrobiodiversity. Considerations to mainstream agrobiodiversity in gender or JASI initiatives in Southeast Asia. Gender equality within indigenous people, you need to consider that it's actually fragmented, but it can be addressed partially by collective rights. So there are different nuances and different dynamics at specific indigenous group. And also to address, to know that the customary land in many parts of the of Southeast Asia, they are stewards, not owners. So in this regard, it is quite challenging to promote or to motivate communities to continue to conserve the land that they are actually depending on for their livelihood and food security. Youth is another aspect, according shared by our moderator from Restoration Stewards of the Global Landscape Forum, that this forum is actually one of the few which provided the space for young women to have a space to just talk about the issues that concerns them and how to address to take leadership in agrobiodiversity mainstreaming as well. And we choose the topic on traditional medicine, and the concerns among the youth who engaged in the or the participants who engaged in the session yesterday is there is limited appeal or limited use of traditional medicine, mostly because lack of confidence in the safety, because it also lacks formal recognition. Therefore, they don't trust the efficacy of this traditional medicine. They are also afraid of the misuse, but majority also have concerns that this traditional knowledge on medicine there is a risk of it being lost, because there is a gap on or limited intergenerational transfer of this knowledge from the elders to the young people. And also a concern, this is called, I think what Dr. Cynthia McDougall mentioned just now, the risk of discrimination. This is what we call, is it invincible blindness? No, invincible barriers, right, Annie, between choice and voice, right? So this is some kind of a barrier that young people find it difficult to associate themselves with their origin or with their indigenous community, for fear of discrimination when they go to the urban areas to seek formal education or formal employment. Probable measures which for the participants to also consider is education can be formal or informal, and also to continue to provide safe space for the youth in this region to engage in this discussion. All right, so I will stop here. If there are no concerns.
Any comment or intervention from the floor that would like to address what was this was, because this was from day one, yeah? Yes. This is all from day one. Anything that was missed, or that you feel that should be there or not there, yeah? So any comments from the floor? No? Okay, so I think later we will go back and revisit this when the white paper draft is presented. Yeah. So,
Okay.
So you
Shall
want to,
I?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Thank you, Annie. So we have collected a lot of information from all of you through the discussions and also from the input from the panelists. And we would like you to engage on, because this one is your opportunity to influence the process. And hopefully we will find entry points in discussion with you to influence the at least national or the regional process on gender equality and social inclusion and agrobiodiversity mainstreaming for food systems in the ASEAN region. So at the outset, for this forum, we set out to meet these following objectives: strengthening understanding among regional policy bodies and organizations on the impact of agrobiodiversity loss, its impact on food security, and also disproportionately impacting women, especially in rural and indigenous communities, further aggravated by climate vulnerabilities. We also set out to strengthen understanding on the role of women in indigenous and rural communities as custodians of agrobiodiversity to advance Aichi target under the Convention on Biological Diversity. At the end of this forum, we aim to consolidate all the recommendations going forward to influence regional policies through regional policy bodies and also regional organizations which represent your interests as indigenous women or indigenous community and rural women. We need to, through this recommendation, we need to identify entry points on how to entry points to mainstream agrobiodiversity in regional and national policies. So the key issue throughout this day until just now, again, collective voice solidarity is an issue, capacity building for complementary livelihood, research tools to address hidden barriers. I think this is from the dynamics, the cultural dynamics which we need to address when we are collecting data or studying the impact of GESI for agrobiodiversity. And also the key issue is the rising adoption of modern agriculture, which is accelerating or contributes to the acceleration of loss of agrobiodiversity in our region. Because they see higher yield and better income, therefore they tend to favor modern agriculture and high input of agri-chemical. And also we need to respect the leadership or the ability to women in rural groups or in indigenous group to self-organize. It has to come within so that there is sustainability and ownership for continued effort. Right? So that we need to consider. One of the key issues is also there's limited outreach to involve and engage youth in this area, especially young women. We just had a discussion moderated by Annie that you favor the men or the young men to go out to work, and then the women, the young women are left behind to support the family together with their mothers. How does that have an impact on young women in rural and indigenous communities? For youth, there is also an intergenerational transfer issue in terms of knowledge and systems and practices. Another key issue is also the documentation. I mentioned at the summary of day one. And the new food system, which favors monoculture, high inputs, and requires purchase of equipment, fertilizers, which could be a double-edged sword because it imposes economic stress. And we've seen among the Hmong or Akha tribe that they are having increased chronic diseases, prevalence of chronic diseases because of economic disruptions. Policy level, respect and acknowledgement of land rights and tenures needs for women, to acknowledge the role of women, the value of indigenous knowledge systems and practices, and to allow or to promote collective voice in a safe and responsive space for women from rural and indigenous communities. Also explore formal and informal education to encourage youth to mainstream agrobiodiversity and also indigenous knowledge systems and practices. The immediate opportunities that are available to us based on the discussions for these 2 days is the ASEAN guidelines on customary tenure recognition in forested landscapes. Now, I think it is only logical since this issue came up again and again among all the panelists, and the opportunity is right, has presented itself because this guideline is at a zero draft and the comment deadline is in January 2022. And there will be a series of national consultations between January and October. So that for your consideration, dear colleagues, for your consideration, you can influence the content of this draft, probably what kind of guidance or rationale that you want to incorporate on the importance of customary tenure rights, customary land tenure and rights. GESI, agrobiodiversity, food security. I mean, I've not seen the draft myself, but these are some of the considerations. Participatory engagement tools. There are different nuances or dynamics on how to approach, how to engage women in indigenous and rural groups, because you cannot take a measure from another area and implement it. You need to make it suitable for local cultural situation. Also addressing the gender blindness and also the invincible barrier that we mentioned just now. And get involved in your regional representatives like AIPP, AIWN, ASEAN, National Women's Group, through focal points or through their regional organizations. So probably they can build solidarity and collective voice, strengthen the voice of women in this process. So any any input for this?
Thank you so much. Thank you, Ratna. So I think in terms of what you capture here is okay, but let me go back to the key issues. I think what we try to do now is to look at how we can use this document, and the points that we put here, and to use that to see what can be done next. So not just looking at the issue, but what do you think other things that we could put forth in making sure that the objective of the event today is actually fulfilled. Again, from what is presented, let us look at from the angle of, do we address the issues of the gender equality and social inclusion in what was presented. And this is one. And looking at the element of agrobiodiversity, do we capture enough? Yeah. So and then we will look at how we want to use this, not only for the white paper that we did, that MI will draft, but also look at how Mekong Institute can further use what we bring from here forward for actual action. And this is what we want to see here. Yeah. So and then there will be, we will try to look at what are the possible collaborative element that all of us and different organizations can share. Let me go back to key issue. The first slide of key issues? Okay. Okay. Maybe for me, it would respect organic leadership. I don't think this is key issues. Yeah, this is not issue, but the issue is that there is low recognition. Yeah, low recognition of traditional or indigenous people food system, or their community system, their customary system. This is, I think, this was mentioned by Kanaya. Yeah. So that their system, their farming system, was not recognized. Or so this is, I think, very crucial. And when we talk about the customary land, yeah, I think if this is not recognized, and I think this is one of the, as you mentioned, the opportunity for intervention when we look at the customary tenure side. Okay, so this is this, and as far as the others, I think still okay. Would others have any comments, or would like to put in more point that we probably missed from this slide? The first is we want to also identify the issue first. What issues we have brought together here. So I think we have seen in terms of collective voice, capacity building is there, okay. Low recognition, okay. Any comment from the side? Let me see. Okay. the comment here, I just read in terms of, I guess, supporting the work of, towards gender inclusion or sustaining agrobiodiversity in the rural area is when it comes to funding, and so do we address the funding support? Is this issues related? Because personally, I also do not see a lot of really big donor program when we know SGP. We get, for example, SGP was putting this, but we would like to also see more donors, maybe look at also the funding side. So this is Eliana captured this there in the Q&A box. Okay. Okay. Any comment from the floor? No. So two things. So what we can do now.
Eliana raised the hand.
Eliana, you want to say something, Eliana? I cannot see you. Eliana? Is she inside this forum now? Can she?
Allow. Eliana, can you try talking? We allow unmute.
Hello?
Yes. Yes, Eliana, please.
I think among all the issues, I think the central issue that I saw is like the methodologies that we are using to understand the communities, especially the rural communities. So I think that I text here that will be useful, like use human behavior methodologies to understand the communities better. Like human behavior methodologies help us to actually know what are the needs, the fears, especially after COVID. Yeah, especially after COVID. And after we use these methodologies, that we be able to design social-centered solutions to drive positive social behavior change. So I think the key issue is like the methodology that we are using to understand communities that are completely different sometimes in terms of traditions and knowledge and the way that they behave.
Okay. So what, for example, okay, if I look at the key issues in terms of, say, for example, there is no collective voice or solidarity, how would we address this? So this is, I think, in when we have the issue, how do we study or how do we research into this? The same thing, if we say low recognition of traditional, so how do we study this part? I think that methodology will be cross-cutting. Yeah. That is why in terms of methodology, that we see in this the whole program, there are different approach in terms of participatory, in terms of what Ratna are doing. Yeah. So, but again, when it comes to methodology, what would be, I think Alexandra also mentioned, we have to be specific in terms of what indicators, what we want to measure. I think that will be in line in terms of which issue do we want to address, right? So now we have a lot of bullets on issues. We have about, I think, at least 10 issues are highlighted in 3 slides. I think, Eliana, your comment will be related to how do we, when we prioritize on the issues, yeah, because this will bring us to the entry points. Yeah, what do we want to address first? Yeah, so looking at after 2 days, yeah, all the issues, do we agree that customary land tenure is the priority? And then again, do we focus on this, and how do we see that addressing this will also address gender inclusion, gender equality, and the social inclusion side? So that is the first thing that I would do first. Which issue do you want to address and what methodology would you suggest?
Sophia, sorry, Annie, I'm asking because there is one text in Khmer. Maybe our Khmer translator can see what it is, what they are saying.
Okay, go ahead. Yeah.
Sophia.
Yes, yeah, go ahead.
The campaign to attract campaign related to the traditions and participation for the youth to understand more and get more experience. Thank you.
Okay, so now we are looking at the participation of youth. One of the issues also we highlighted here. So how do we we have seen youth participation again coming up. I think would this be so how do we go about this? Yeah, and this if this is the one of the key issues that we have to address, because there are so many. If we can prioritize maybe 1 or 2 or maybe 5, how would we engage this? Looking at the entry points of ASEAN, what is already there. We have 3 guidelines, that we look at today. Yeah, first is the Rural Development Master Plan, and then the Zero Draft on Customary Land Tenure, and then we also have yesterday another document, for example, on use of the non-timber forest, the guideline on when to harvest or when to use forest product. I think so we look at this instrument so that we are able to work in a synergetic manner, and with the gender inclusion there, a few guidelines on the women, the involvement of women. Yeah, so can we look at the land tenure first? Is this the #1 issue that we have to address?
This is at policy level, the land tenure.
Yeah, so the land tenure is at policy level. Yeah, so since we have this policy, and at the if we want to highlight on this issue being the main issue that the indigenous people are facing, the women are facing, so I think maybe it's a good entry point to look at this, that we work to look at the zero draft. So as the action forward. Do we want to address the land tenure issue? There is another comment in the chat in this language. Is this Thai or Lao from Cambodia?
Khmer.
Khmer.
Yeah, I saw it. Okay.
Yeah.
You hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. Currently, I would like to hear about the land tenure in the community, because our community of the indigenous people have problem, including preservations of plantations and a lot of deforestation, a lot of unidentified people have cutting down the tree, etc.
Okay. I know this is a big area to look at, but I just give an example what we have in Malaysia. We have this customary land law, yeah, customary land customary native land law under our state government of Sarawak. So it is in the law that the people, indigenous people like us, have the right to with the title to the land, and this is part of the National Land Code. Yeah, so this is exactly that. But if I look at the whole country, for the another community, they do not have the orang asli. They don't have this. So this is something I think cross the board. This is not easy to look at because land is always at the provincial or the local level and also at the national level. Okay, so let's maybe at the policy level we can also address later, but we know that land issue will be one of the key area that is close to agrobiodiversity rights. Yeah, and it is also in that way, if this is not addressed, we know that for women to continue the work of in agrobiodiversity will not be there. So so I personally agree to have this, as the thing that we have to address, but how we prioritize this. And even for Mekong Institute, if you were to look at the land issue, land tenure, whether in Greater Mekong sub-region or in ASEAN, I'm not sure how you would look, what kind of research or what kind of intervention that from Mekong Institute that you are capable, you would like to look at here. Maybe from Mekong Institute, you would like to look at this and see what is your response to this. Because now you are the clearinghouse for this information.
Annie?
Yeah.
Our chairman for the session and also the executive director, he said he has some points to highlight,
Okay.
but during the immediate opportunities for entry points, right? He would incorporate those concerns in that slide or during that discussion, if that is okay with everyone.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think that would be good. Okay. So what other issues do we see as relevant? Okay, next on land rights, role of women, we can see that.
Sophia, again, there is a comment on Khmer.
It's the same thing. She just repeat. It's the same comment as earlier comment.
Okay, all right.
Okay, any other issues that we that you see that was not highlighted during the event, or that is highlighted here that you probably think that is not really a big will not be important enough, I guess. So any other comment from the floor? So we have outreach, yeah, key issues in outreach, documentation. How do we address, this come out so often as well on documentation. Again, we talk about traditional knowledge, about customary protocol, and who can access, who cannot access. Yeah, so this is part of this documentation and knowledge transfer. I think this is a big issue in terms of traditional knowledge, and it will be good. Definitely, we have to address this because we need to make visible, make visible what the indigenous community and women are doing on the ground, that support the mainstreaming of agrobiodiversity. I think this has not been captured enough. So the only question next is how do we put together all this information? Where is the common platform to access this kind of information? So so if we document, again, we do not want to have silo work. Everybody document, but there is no common place where we can see all this. So maybe this is another entry point that we look at as documentation of IKSP, whatever is existing, that we have a clearinghouse. I'm not sure whether there is already one, but from what I see these 2 days, each country, each organization have their own. Yeah, but we don't see all this in one platform, whether at ASEAN, especially at ASEAN level. Yeah, I think if we can look at this, because we can see when it comes to traditional practices, there are some common way of doing things. Yeah. And I think it is good for ASEAN to also see that it's not just in Laos, but it's also in Thailand, it is also in Vietnam. So this is something that we have to have this common platform for this documentation. So this, I think, so documentation, land tenure, I see is one. And another thread here is how do modern agricultural invasion to the community or indigenous people agricultural system. So how do we address this? So this is, I think, another area that is important. Okay, any input in terms of this? Let me see. No other. So next issue. So we have outreach, collective, modern agriculture. So okay, your point, new food system monoculture, and the previous one is the same. Let's go up one slide. So the new food system, right? This is one here. And then where do I see this another one? Okay, go up. Is there another slide? There, increased adoption of modern agriculture. If we can combine that, yeah. So that is one. Any other input from, I saw another comment coming in. Okay, so inclusive value chain, linking farmers to market, and on migration. Do we capture this migration issue?
No, I didn't capture migration, but the one that I got was during the discussion just now.
The education.
Okay. The men migrate, the young men might go out to look for, and then the women are left. So probably that impact, is it a fair response?
Yeah, I think, you know, the migration part, there are two areas here. Okay, that discussion, and also yesterday in the youth platform, when we talk about the youth going out to study, right? So they look at different values that are not similar to their customary values, and that is affecting, you know, because when they come back, their mindset change, the way they look at things are changing. And this is the case actually now, you know, especially if I look at my village. Yeah, in my village, whenever those who have work in the city, yeah, they will bring back the city values to the village. So there is a social, cultural erosion that is going on. So I think, you know, so this migration and reverse migration, yeah, because once they're retired, they come back to the village, they will also try to change the social landscape of the community. So, so from that angle, I think the migration is because this migration happened for both men and women who leave the village to study, for example. Yeah, so it can affect the community. So in two platforms, I see this discussion, this migration is relevant. Any other input from the rest?
On the chat box, anything?
Yes, and also the young that are absent. Yeah. And yes, so we should address the migration, rural to urban and urban to rural, the reverse side. What is the impact? Because when they go out, they will also live. But let's us try to look at, especially looking at the indigenous, the impact on the young women and the impact on the women who are left behind and who are going to the city. How their values will change, because this will also affect the household level. Yeah. Okay. Any other input?
Mr. Wana, normally men and women from the rural migrate for job, especially youth.
Yeah. So do we address this migration issue? Yeah, because it will affect the involvement of youth in conserving agrobiodiversity at home. Yeah, so if we were to address this, what would we do? Yeah, because now a lot of people think that we must engage them through digital technology. They must be able to. We must make things back home technologically savvy enough for them. How do you see this in the context of indigenous people or the women in agrobiodiversity?
Any can I'm just thinking out loud here. I remember Miss Clarissa Arida from ACB was mentioning that ACB there is a need to address commercial. What was the term? The commercial practices on supplementary income for people to motivate them to conserve the area. So I think that would probably contribute to limiting rural-urban migration, because there are income opportunities, and then these initiatives will be developed in participation and collaboration with the local community. So that would probably engage youth to be more involved in that aspect,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Probably, I don't know if our colleagues here in the Zoom agree to that.
Yeah. Can we upscale this kind of initiative? This is creating economic value or social values at the local area itself. Yeah. So, and we see in the ACB sharing that the whole family is involved, that they are also the entrepreneur, they keep the livestock. Yeah. So everyone is participating. So this kind of initiative can, engaging everyone in the household. This is, I think, probably one of the way that is useful to engage the youth. But we can also hear, from the youth discussion yesterday that, to learn about all these things, what would attract them to stay? Yeah, is this enough? Yeah, and I think the hand holding, the women still have to play a critical role to bring their children in. The willpower of the women must bring the children. Okay. So I will keep in mind that the migration and also making sure that the household unit is supportive of each other, especially driven by women-led leadership at these activities to hold the family or the unit together. I think this is critical. Yeah. So we must basically create job opportunities that is attractive enough, not just for economically, but that the youth see the value in this, the social value, why they are there. Yeah.
So I have included that as key issue. I think seeing there's a lot of discussion on migration.
Yeah.
How does it how does it impact agrobiodiversity, livelihood, and burden on rural and indigenous women?
Okay, can we go?
Okay, nah?
Yeah, can. Any other input from the others? Okay, no more. Okay, can we see your next slide again?
So, okay, no, any?
Yeah, yeah. Okay. Move to the next slide.
Policies.
Policies. Is there apart from the there are, I heard three main policies at the ASEAN level. Yeah. So is there any other? But this one, I think Mekong Institute will look at put together all the policies that were mentioned from the various speakers, right?
Yes, Annie, it's coming up in the next slide. Shall I pull that up?
Yes.
So
Yeah.
I've sort of presented it like immediate opportunities.
Yeah.
And also subsequent one that we need to work on it.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
So I will put it on full screen. So this the one that there is a window to influence this guideline. Because I think every effort has got a value in pushing this agenda forward in the interest of women in this rural and indigenous women, right? So this is one opportunity. And there's also one which June from AIWN, Asia Indigenous Women's Network, was sharing with there is an update in the draft of the CBD and also the target revision of the text to give more specific mention of women and also indigenous knowledge rather than traditional knowledge. So I think that is another opportunity to influence that. But the thing is, I'm not, I don't know if anyone in the panel or participants who are well versed with this process on how to influence the content of this draft. Probably we should, yeah.
Yeah. So I think here, looking at these opportunities, I think we have to look at who should represent us, yeah, the indigenous people in looking at this, and who has been involved in this process. Because I personally do not have I've not been involved in this. So maybe from the floor, would you have suggestion how to influence this, how to move forward with this opportunity, this immediate opportunity?
There's a hand raised by Miss Rosalut.
Yes, Rosa. Hello, Rosa. I did not see where your hand is.
Hello.
Yes, go ahead. Yeah.
Yes. Yes. No, I think AIPP is in the participant among
Can
the
you
participants.
talk? Are you able to use the audio, Miss Rosa?
Yes. Yes. Can you hear me?
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I can hear you. Yeah. Go ahead.
The CBD has a mechanism to among civil society and for the indigenous peoples and local communities, IPLCs, the AIPP is quite involved. And I think AIPP should be in the participants, right? Among the participants. And then also there's a women's caucus. And she's actually in Chiang Mai, Tina Rai, who is actually in charge of the women for CBD. And I could certainly link you up with her. And she works very closely with AIPP as well. So, and she is an indigenous woman herself and very much an advocate.
Okay.
So that's, can I also, while I have the floor, can I also suggest that in addition to the ASEAN policy arena, I think there are other policies that maybe we could map it out along with the Mekong Institute later on. So, including the FAO regional conference.
Yeah, I agree. So
Thank you.
yes, thank you, Rosa.
Thank you.
So we have the. It's good to know that AIPP is readily involved in this policy intervention on global biodiversity, and maybe a step forward would be for Mekong Institute to also follow up in this engagement with IPP and the Women Caucus in Chiang Mai, and provide feedback to this group of network that are here today. That is why I think, for follow-up action, because this event is, I think, very crucial, as a baseline forward for us when it comes to mainstreaming ABD through gender. So I hope, Ratna, this can be done from Mekong Institute to follow up with AIPP, and also with the Women Caucus, and also any other, and also a few of the policies that is out there, especially when it comes to CBD and the Nagoya Protocol, where we look at access and benefit sharing. I think we still have to look at this from this angle.
Annie, I think about 3 of our speakers are actually members of AIPP. So we will, so these things will be shared with them. So they will, AIPP.
Also those outside.
Yes, yeah. Yes.
Okay. Eliana, I see your hand.
Yeah, I try to move forward some suggestions for solutions.
Okay.
In terms of young, can be useful, like involve young people in the construction of the project since the beginning.
Okay.
Follow Suriname headline yesterday's. Give them opinion in public space so they can have more confidence speaking on public by the project, and also a valid vote in decision making. That can also be really incentive for them, that actually their voice are listened, so they can give us more like a power to speak.
Okay.
And in the all this knowledge, like a repository of knowledge that will be like a WordPress that allows to add content collectively. So it is an online repository that I think is really useful to share knowledge, and will be online and it's easy to use. And I think that will be a good option for now, like immediately options is really intuitive, and can have like one editor for each organization, and they can add a different type of content. Thank you.
Okay. So for youth engagement, is there a ready platform for indigenous people, youth? Is there such a platform? I know Sumarmi has this. Could they take the lead in going forward with this youth engagement? What do you propose?
Sorry, Eliana, please. You say first.
Yeah, no, that was the 2 different things that you was talking about. All the organizations have different knowledge that we share, and they needed a space to share all the knowledge collectively. So I was suggesting that WordPress is a good option, but if it's the all options that can be like the same characteristic, will be nice. And in terms of youth, yeah, like Tsunami just highlight these 3 points that they're so important. So it's like just so they can engage and just motivate to participate more.
Yeah. Okay. Yes, Ratna, you want to?
I just want to confirm 2 things. One is, Eliani, you're from AIYN, right?
No.
Okay, sorry. But yesterday, I think we had involvement from the ASEAN Indigenous Youth Network also. They were in the discussion. and they are part of AIPP. Very closely, they work very closely with them.
Okay.
So yeah, probably through AIPP or directly, because since they were involved in the discussions, we can also share and see how they can influence the process. And the one that Eliana raised about the sharing of knowledge on a single platform to access, to curate, to edit, and all that, it's actually coming up next, because I wanted to see what is the take on everyone if such a thing exists. All right, so if we finish this section of the slide, I think we can influence beyond those who attended here, Annie, AIPP, and then we can try to see how we can best move forward with the draft for the CBD.
Yeah, okay.
Right, so next will be this one. I don't know, Mr. Florante, I don't know if you are able to, is he muted, or if he's engaged in this discussion?
Yeah.
Because this one was presented yesterday by Asia, the ASEAN Master Plan for Rural Development. I'm not sure if there are any opportunity to influence this. Is it being drafted? Member countries discussing this and all that. So do we need to promote this at the national level so everyone can get on board to see how they can best influence and provide input?
Yeah.
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 Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
It's actually being drafted, and there is a national consultation to provide inputs and validate the contents of the master plan, and it's ongoing now. In fact, Cambodia was having a national consultation today, and there is a schedule the consultation would run from December to January next year.
Okay.
So we encourage everyone to participate in this national consultations, and contact persons for these consultations are the national SOM RDPE focal persons in your country. Yes.
Which SOM?
RDPE. SOM RDPE.
Rural Development.
Rural Development and Poverty Eradication.
Yeah. Okay. So so we know that this the national consultation is taking place on this master plan now. This will be until January next year. So if we want to look at the content or what is what this master plan is about, whether the element of social the gender equality and social inclusion of related to rural women and indigenous is in there or not. How do they address this? I think it is important. Do you have any idea now, Florante, whether what is the gender element in there, or the indigenous people element? Is it being considered so far in this master plan? ASEAN have compiled most of this?
Before this master plan has been drafted, there were series of scoping studies of what is already there at the ASEAN member states. Now, what were the initiatives that already undertaken in relation to gender, relation to youth, in relation to territorial development approach, in relation to farmers, in relation to indigenous communities. So it's there, and this results of these scoping studies provided the input into the drafting of the rural development. In fact, the latest was this digital agriculture, also provided an input on that. So there were many things that were discussed today. So I'm not sure if all of that are there, but precisely the result of the study, especially on gender mainstreaming, in relation to rural development was there, and it's and I attended the validation of that scoping study at the regional level, and I think most of the items that were discussed there were there, no? Because, for example, one of the findings of the gender mainstreaming is really not deep enough, no? Currently not deep enough as undertaken by the ASEAN member states.
Okay. So so far from the scoping study, we know that gender mainstreaming is part of that, and youth participation in indigenous community is also considered in this master plan.
Yes, yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Especially in the item on territorial approach to rural development.
Yeah, territorial protected and conserved areas. This is also the concern of this rural development, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, because the most of the rural development initiatives did not actually, as a finding, no, did not actually took into consideration the territories that were left behind, no, resource for territories, no, except maybe for Vietnam and Indonesia, and there were 3 countries were more or less leading in Vietnam, because there is this new national target programs about building new rural areas, and that program of the Vietnamese government really put priorities of, you know, indigenous communities in Vietnam.
Okay.
And the village fund also, the village fund of Indonesia also took care of the poorest villages in Indonesia, something like that.
Okay, thank you. Rosa, you have your hand raised.
Yes. I just want to bring back to the objective of the meeting you know, because we're talking about agrobiodiversity and what are we mainstreaming? It's I think we have to put a qualifier when, you know, the women is there or the indigenous peoples are there in the policy. But I think we have to put more qualifier when it comes to, because there are different groups of women as we, you know, depends on the context we're talking about. Are we talking about in context of agriculture or agrobiodiversity? So I think in our reporting, we should put a qualifier on the groups of women,
yeah,
and the topic itself, whether agriculture sector or agrobiodiversity.
Yeah, I agree. Yes. So, this I think we cannot lose sight of, because at the end of the day, this is about agrobiodiversity. And I would definitely, when we talk about agrobiodiversity, what are the indicators or the area of agro? Because from the 2 days discussion, for me, it has a lot of focus on type of, on plants, on plant species and things like that. Also, of course, traditional knowledge is part of that. But I would, from FAO point of view, this because we are also doing mainstreaming agrobiodiversity in our work in Malaysia. We look at take eight means of when we say agrobiodiversity, what should be there. Yeah, so we must be able to see the different biosystem, integrated farming system, integrated landscape, for example, different species, not just red rice, but you also have many varieties of rice, and how, and yesterday we can see that even the type of forest products, whether for food and also the other areas that support production of food, including microorganism, the pests, including for pest management, integrated management, there is this element of agrobiodiversity must be there. This is the first point for the event, I think. That's why we keep asking, what do you mean by agrobiodiversity? I think, yeah, so this is, and then we look at if we were to mainstream, yeah, and I think during the meeting, we hear that the women, they know how to manage pests using, you know, the way they integrate the living system in the area. So I think we should not lose track of this. Yeah, the knowledge, the traditional knowledge related to that women bring forth, the value that women bring forth in mainstreaming or conserving biodiversity. I think thank you, Rosa, for highlighting that again. And I think that we should not, and even when we empower youth, yeah. So as Eliana mentioned, that, you know, we want to empower to bring in to be active. So what is this element and agrobiodiversity that we want them to continue forward? And that's why yesterday we discussed about traditional medicine, herb, yeah. So, but beyond that, what else is there about agrobiodiversity? Okay, next one.
Yeah, Annie. So these are the immediate opportunities, and the subsequent slides are basically references like that we need to consider when we draft the recommendation, the way forward, like what we need to capture, right? So I'm going to go to the next few slides. I will finish that, and then probably we can discuss if there are any concerns. Huh?
Yeah.
So the first one is to, I think some of the best practices or some of the key points that we can identify that is working well. For example, in SEPA, just presented by Mr. Vanak, there is an opportunity. I think just now, who mentioned, was it Cynthia or Elizabeth? Dr. Elizabeth mentioned that engagement as champions of JZ livelihood and sustainable food system through agrobiodiversity mainstreaming. So I'm not, yeah, that could be because men can probably will listen to another man better. I don't know. So that is something. And then documentation of indigenous knowledge system and practices. This is referring to Eliana's regional research or repository of knowledge, or what does it have any merit? If it's agreed, then who would manage this, right? Because the knowledge or whatever that goes into need to be moderated, validated, and then updated. Right. So it's a big work. So I'm putting there. So whether if there's probably there is interest in looking at it, but then how to do it and put it into practice is another matter. Some key policy engagement best practices from Tep-Teba Lao Women Union. We will highlight this for people to refer to if they want to use this as a model to India work on agrobiodiversity mainstreaming. The other one is based on what Lao woman presented just now, Dr. Bounma. I think women, they provide some form of rural safety net through agrobiodiversity, which includes community seed banks, family home garden, poverty eradication. I think this is a very important aspect, the rural safety net, rural poverty alleviation, what women play. We will highlight this. And then, of course, some from Supermom, the Faith in the Philippines, and also yesterday, the Green School program shared by Nepal. So we will put this as a list of best practices that people can refer to, right? Coming out from this discussion. So, so collective actions to regional organization. I think just now Ms. Rosa mentioned about the FAO regional conference. I think I will put this in probably also because there is, if you look at the ASEAN Committee on Women, they have to have constant engagement with other divisions in ASEAN. And one of it is on climate change. But I think they have not operationalized this quite well. So there is a room for further engagement. Yeah, so using the national regional organizations, so these are the entry points to build solidarity and collective voice to influence regional and national policies. The other one is through Mekong Institute, based on our mandate. Currently under the leadership of Mr. Suriyan, we are working on the GMS Sustainable Food System Implementation Model. That one, and there will be opportunity to provide or to design capacity building on scaling up IKSP market linkages. This we usually do this, right? Linking farmers to market. Also using digital tools, sub-regional through the SFS model, influencing sub-regional food policies. And also intersectionality, addressing intersectionality between sustainable food system, gender, and agrobiodiversity. So this is quite broad, but I think Kun Suriyan would elaborate on that further later. And the last one, if anyone in Pakaulau want to answer this, because is there a plan to expand Pakaulau to include the status of native species that is extinct or threatened? Is there a merit to seek CBD or ACB to record the IKSP or agrobiodiversity mainstreaming in a common platform as highlighted by Eliana? If yes, how? And then ASEAN youth programs, what opportunities are there to mainstream sustainable food system through agrobiodiversity? And then to seek out your national focal point on ASEAN Committee for Women to advocate for agrobiodiversity mainstreaming. If there is need to do that, then probably we should think how. And the last one, this is the last one. I think we don't go to this. Probably Kun Suriyan will pick this up, right? Kun Suriyan later, all right? Okay, so these are the few. I will stop here.
Okay. Okay, so I would like to go to your beautiful diagram. So this is this catch my eye so much. I think I was looking at throughout the event. In every community seed bank have been coming out a lot, and I think this is right in the alley of FAO. Community seed bank. And so how can we because there's a lot of threats into communities into access to seeds at the moment. So what can we do here to ensure, because this is very important, and we know that we can see through the event that the women are playing a lot of role in conserving seed diversity, and in saving, in propagating. So this is the role that women are playing in this. So this probably one of the areas that I would see very relevant for next action, because this is already going on in many communities. But how do we make community seed bank properly recognized and also can be upscaled? But there is little support as even in Malaysia for us. We are starting to get the public to. We also have the app now that people can share information about seeds, what they have. At the moment, we do not care yet whether it is hybrid or traditional variety. We just want them to keep to have the seed and make sure the seed is in the database. So this is something maybe to upscale this initiative in all ASEAN region, that we can work on community seed reserve. We know that Pakaulau is already looking at this. So almost in every country in ASEAN we see this. But how do we capture or share this information? Any other input from here? Yes, Ilian. Rosa.
Yes, I think the first step is really looking at, we have the International Treaty on Plant Genetic Resources, and we have to look at which countries are signatories to that party, and the same thing with the Nagoya Protocol. So we actually use these instruments to monitor what the governments are really implementing. And from that, that's very macro level, but we have a lot of, what we're hearing is a lot of good practices at the local level, and how do we scale that up and bring it all the way up to the policy level. And that I think is what we meant by agrobiodiversity mainstreaming, and the role of women is so important there. I think it's a very important output that came out from this meeting, because it's really how we implement those nice protocols and treaties with signatories of the governments, but we have to find out how they are implemented now at the local level, all the way to the local level.
Yes. Yeah. For the International Convention on Plant Genetic and Food Resources, ITPGRFA. Okay. I think Vietnam is not a signatory to that. So the rest of the country, like Malaysia, is. So the rights of farmers, the right of indigenous people, right to food, this is part of this treaty. So that's why, you know, we in ASEAN, we look at these different countries because Vietnam is a member of UPOF, for example. So it is they are probably looking at it differently, but from other convention, we would like to see how CBD and community access and benefit sharing would also be coming back. For example, in Thailand, we see that, you know, in Hmong, that people are taking, you know, their knowledge away and things like that. I think we have to look at these international convention treaties as well. Thank you, Rosa. Yeah, any more from you, Rosa?
No, thank you.
Okay, all right. Okay, any other intervention from the rest? So otherwise, I would, anything else from the last few slides that Ratna presented? I think rural safety net, yeah, all these 4 pillars, the entry point, yeah. Yeah, we covered a lot of good initiatives, yeah, good practices, good initiative. But again, you know, we hope that Mekong Institute will collate and put together all this information that can be shared with all the relevant, especially the policymakers, yeah, that they see what is there on the ground. So as far as the objective of the event, I hope that we have at least the participant here already see that the role of women, what they are playing, the indigenous people. But as far as the policymakers are concerned, yeah, I think this will depend on how our result, the last 2 days, will be conveyed to them. And that will be very important. And that's why the white paper, it will be helpful to put together all this information. And of course, the white paper is one, but what else can we do? Yeah, the next one, which one? I think Mekong Institute will take the initiative in taking the major point from here, that so that it can be processed to further action. I think for my side, that will be it for this one. I pass back to Ratna and to what we do next.
Thank you, Dr. Anni. Just quickly, there is one hand up. Maybe just 1 minute for your comments. Elpidio Peria.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah, thank you. This is just to augment. No, I'm from the Philippines, technical consultant also.
You have to speak a bit louder, Elpidio.
Sorry.
Yeah.
I'm from the Philippines, technical consultant of the ASEAN Center for Biodiversity. Just to augment what Rosalud mentioned, because the international treaty was mentioned, I would suggest that perhaps FAO can help open up the standard material transfer agreements and see what are the rights provided to indigenous peoples, communities, and women, and also how farmers' rights are being implemented, because that will also respond to Annie's point on how it will interact with the plant variety protection systems, another way to strengthen the rights of family farms. Thank you.
Fantastic,
Okay.
Elpidio. Thank you.
What was that again? Material transfer agreement?
Standard material transfer agreement. It's a species of an ABS agreement under the international treaty, which I'm just picking up from where Rosalud suggested. No? Just to add, maybe FAO can help in perhaps enabling ASEAN member states in opening up these SMTAs. I'm not sure whether they're confidential or not. It's up to FAO to guide us on that. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Okay, so that's specific comment. So what we have here is how we are going to monitor and take this forward with the white paper. Once, like Annie mentioned, we can have a white paper, then after that what, right? So I would like to see, right. Yes, so at this point, I would like to invite Mr. Suriyan, Suriyan Vichitlekarn, the Executive Director of Mekong Institute, to sum up, especially on taking this forward, and also give his point on the entry points and also the influence process of influencing the regional policies and strategies. And also after that, thank everyone and close the forum for today. Right, Suriyan, over to you. Thank you, Dr. Anni.
Thank you, Ratna. Colleagues, participants of the forum, I feel like I have a big buffet dinner. It's full of a lot of food. It's a lot of tasty dishes. My God, I need to sit down, digest, and really see how I will plan my day after a big meal. But to me, this is a beauty. You know, this is a beauty. The reason that we discussed over the past 2 days, looking at how important and contribution of agrobiodiversity and how it contributes to food security and livelihoods. It's without adding any words, it's surely been clear to all of us. We discussed about interlinkages of agrobiodiversity and also women and indigenous community, how the interlinkages are, and why this is so important, because it helps to really make sure that our people will have space, they will be seen, recognized, so that any development and regional cooperation integration will not marginalize them, give them space, and therefore make sure that there is part of the beneficiaries to benefit from the effort of maybe national development, regional integration. We also discussed problems, issues, if we do not take any actions. There will be a lot of negative consequences to agrobiodiversity and the chain reaction to the food production, to the livelihoods, to the rural communities, and so on and so forth. This is why we put all this effort together and see how we can really communicate this understanding, the importance, the aspiration, so that we can inform a wider stakeholder group, particularly the policymaker. And it's not for them to take note of. Surely this is not enough. We want to ask them to see how the issue, challenges, aspiration will be operationalized in the policy. we need to look into how we address the implementation issues of the policy as well. It's not only to be included in the policy, right? Many colleagues who used to work in my old days at the ASEAN Secretariat FAO, like Annie, like Jing, and new colleagues like Kuntum, will certainly understand that what we are about to embark on is really a journey. It's not an activity. It's not just a mere few steps. We are about to embark into a journey. And that's why we need to discuss, broaden the scope, but at some point we need to settle it down, identify clear steps, and make sure that there is a progress, despite how difficult, how slow it is, but we make sure that the next day we are advancing at least one step ahead. All right, I will not touch upon content, which has been well summarized by Ratna, complemented by Annie, that still need to be settled and digested. So we will spend our effort to work on the white paper. That will be our common tools, our communication vehicle that we will use in order to reach out to wider public and policymakers. But at the same time, I just want to share with you that bringing this white paper to the regional policy bodies like ASEAN or even FAO regional conference and so on and so forth, we have learned from our past experience that this is only entry point. It's not the end of the process. Looking at how these regional policy guidelines are put into implementation and actually recognize space and engagement of the stakeholder to see what are the results, what are impacts, and continue to address the emerging issue and challenges. This also includes unintended consequences of regional cooperation integration that oftentimes we thought that things are static, which is not the case. That's why Mekong Institute attach a lot of importance that this policy framework, regional policy setting body would need to be supported by a more actionable partnership. This is how we see sub-regional cooperation framework, be it Mekong sub-region, be it IMTGT or BIM-IAGA, you can name it, as an intermediary step or platform or level where we start to look into operationalizing such policy, really work on the issues and do not see it as a topic or a sector, but really ensure that they are integrated and built into the regional integration measures and processes. Because I do not really believe that coming up with any sectoral issues and guidelines and implementation plan, it will be effectively put into implementation. We want this to be built into ASEAN community building. It's not only social cultural community. We do not want to see this as a topic to be recognized by Mekong sub-region, but we would like to see how Mekong sub-region economic integration embrace, build the measures in, so that any regional economic integration measures has a component, an area, resources that build this importance into the overall processes. So because of this, we discussed the entry point, the white paper, and we still need to act together. I do not want to really overrule any particular mechanism or networks because issues and challenges are a lot. We have a lot of like-minded organizations and partners. I would encourage everyone to see in your own networks, in your own opportunity. Perhaps we need to jointly use this common knowledge that we have discussed and try to advocate. That will be something that I would encourage everyone to do that. Mekong City will continue to do that too. All right. What I would like just to spend the rest of my talk today is to share with you a little bit of what Mekong Institute intend to do. Of course, this is not a Mekong Institute organization alone. Why I'm saying Mekong Institute is also to recognize that we have also our partners that we will have to sit down with them, discuss further, refine strategy, and so on and so forth. Monitoring and also planning the subsequent process will be something we need to put our heads together. Things are not so simple, and we know that. Let me just put one example. When I first heard about ASEAN Master Plan on rural development, immediately I thought of my last 12 years of ASEAN Master Plan on connectivity. When we first developed ASEAN Master Plan for connectivity, we thought that, yes, this is a big, roadmap, But to drive that, even connectivity, it requires a dedicated division. For those who are working with ASEAN Secretariat, you know that they have dedicated division working on just master plan on connectivity. Development partner pour in resources. Even yet, they're still facing a lot of problems in the actual implementation itself. I'm not discouraging anyone, but we need to think beyond developing a master plan. We need to look into how the master plan will put into life and how we can see the implementation and impact. All right, what Mekong Institute together with partner will attempt to do is that we will certainly be a strong advocate of promoting regional economic development and integration, but with a very strong social and environmental responsibilities and safeguard. That is something Mekong Institute will continue to advocate. But the topic we discussed today, we hope to be able to work deeper. And the work on implementation support for sustainable food system in the GMS, we already started to put into a concept note. We have been working with many organizations like Stockholm Environment Institute, FAO, SCAP, and many other people. We hope to be able to blend this in. Yeah, so that will be something we'll certainly take up. And again, not just a topic, but blend in the sustainable food system, how we can make sure that we can maintain functionality and resilience of food systems, not by looking at certain elements, but looking at the food system as a whole. We also will try to advocate and support how GMS integration measures and platform will really be informed of the topic we discussed, built into regional economic integration tools and platforms such as economic corridor. Because I do not believe that discussing among people working on agrobiodiversity, women and the indigenous community will be able to really interact with the economic integration people and make sure that they recognize the issue we are discussing. There's still a lot of work to be done. As I said, it's a journey in itself. What I would like to say to conclude is that we have collected, we have heard your view. We need to organize and digest it. Everything seems to be important, but we cannot addressing everything. We need to really make sure we strategize, we take concrete steps, and really see how things evolve. I would like to thank partners joining as an organization like SEI, New Zealand Aid Program, as individuals. I'm glad to see all colleagues. I don't feel like the time has departed us a lot, because whenever we discuss, the aspiration and excitement always come back. Annie, Jing, so it's like the same all day, but with more experience, we hope to be able to influence the process. I would like to thank moderators, speakers, participants, and MI team, and of course, Ratna, who really stay up late and making sure that we have got the right speakers, we have got good input, and of course, they still need to work more days on putting together the result of the forum. Mekong City will continue to discuss with our partners on the next steps, strategize how we would like to see this through. As a journey, we need to make sure that every checkpoint, we sit down together, we explore opportunities, identify new emerging issues and challenges, because without doing that, I think things will not be simply translated into action and impacts. Colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, it has been a too long day, but I think it's worthwhile spending time putting our head together, sharing thought, ideas, and now the result will be put together into the white paper and identify the process forward. I thank for your engagement and hopefully will continue to engage you in the subsequent process. All right, any party would need to have time, and then we need to more or less go back to our work, but remain connected. We surely will have to connect with you again. And with that, I would like to declare the forum closed, but let's continue with the journey we have started. So with that, thank you so much, everyone. We will be in connection with you again. Yeah. Take good care. Bye-bye.
Before you log out, when you log out, there would be a post-event questionnaire. Kindly take about 5 minutes or less. It will only take a very short time to fill the questionnaire and submit it. Thank you very much. And I forgot to mention Merry Christmas and Happy New Year. And also thank you everyone. Merry Christmas. Happy New Year 2022. Thank you.
Thank you, Ratna. Bye. Thank you, everyone. Thank you. Happy New Year. Merry Christmas.